Most people think libraries are silent. They aren't. During the day, they're filled with whispers, footsteps, printers, and the constant turning of pages. At night, they make different sounds. The city library hired me as the overnight security clerk while the building underwent renovations. The hours were simple: midnight until 7, walk every floor once an hour, keep people out, report broken windows or alarms. It paid almost twice what my old security job had. The head librarian met me just before closing. She looked exhausted, like someone who hadn't slept in weeks. "You'll only have one responsibility." I smiled. "Just one?" She nodded. "Every morning, make sure shelf 47 has exactly 12 books." I waited for the explanation. It never came. 12 books? Exactly. What happens if someone checks one out? They can't. The shelf isn't part of the public collection. She handed me a brass key. No keychain, no label, just the number. 47. After the building emptied, I found the shelf. It wasn't on any floor map. A narrow hallway behind the history section led to a locked oak door. The brass key fit perfectly. Inside was a tiny circular room. One wooden bookshelf. 12 identical black books. No titles, no authors, no call numbers. Nothing. Each book looked centuries old. The leather covers had no writing at all. A laminated card rested on the shelf. "Night procedures count the books every hour. Never open one. If there are only 11, leave immediately." I laughed. Libraries have strange traditions. That had to be one of them. I counted anyway. 1, 2, 3, 12. Satisfied, I locked the room and began my rounds. The library was enormous. 4 floors, thousands of shelves. By 1 in the morning, the entire building had settled into silence. No alarms, no motion detectors, nothing. At exactly 1 a.m., every grandfather clock in the building chimed. Not together, one after another, as if something were walking through the library, ringing each clock by hand. I returned to shelf 47, unlocked the door, counted again. 1, 2, 3, 11. I counted a second time. Still 11. One of the books was gone. The room had no windows. Only one door. The one I just unlocked. The office phone began ringing somewhere deep in the library. It rang once, twice, 3 times, then stopped. A single page drifted out from the gap where the missing book had been. Typed across the top were 6 words. "Please return before sunrise." I stared at the empty space on the shelf. 11 books. The note lay where the 12th should have been. "Please return before sunrise." Return what? The missing book? Who had taken it? More importantly, how? The room had one entrance, no windows, no hidden passages. I checked the lock, still engaged, no scratches, no signs anyone else had opened it. The office phone began ringing again. This time I followed it. The sound echoed through the empty library. History, science, children's section. Every time I thought I was close. The ringing moved farther away. Finally, I reached the information desk. The phone was ringing on the counter. The display didn't show a number. It simply read, "Shelf 47. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A young woman's voice whispered back. "Did you count them?" "Yes." "How many?" 11. Silence. Then, "You still have time." The line went dead. I searched the library floor by floor. No broken windows, no open exits, no signs of anyone inside. Yet, books were no longer where they belonged. A history book rested in the cooking section. A dictionary sat among the biographies. Entire rows looked shifted, not randomly, deliberately, like someone had reorganized the library according to rules only they understood. As I rounded the corner into fiction, I heard someone turning pages, slowly, one page every few seconds. The sound came from Reading Room B. I pushed the door open. Empty chairs, empty tables, a single lamp burned in the corner. An old hardcover book lay open beneath it. Its pages were turning by themselves. No breeze, no fan. Each page flipped, paused, then flipped again. When I stepped closer, they stopped. The book wasn't from the library. Its cover was plain black, just like the 12 books. There was no title. I hadn't noticed it before because it was lying open. The first page contained only one sentence. "Thank you for finding me." I immediately closed it. Rule 2. Never open one. Too late. The lights flickered. Every bulb in the reading room went dark, except the lamp beside the book. Something moved between the shelves. Not quickly, just enough to disappear behind another aisle. I caught only a glimpse. A gray coat, an arm, someone walking away. "Library security," I called. No answer. I followed. Every aisle looked identical. Books stretched endlessly in both directions. I turned a corner, then another, then another. When I looked back, the reading room was gone. The library should have been familiar. I'd walked it 3 times already that night. Now the signs made no sense. History pointed toward children's books. Exit pointed into a wall of encyclopedias. The floor mat beside the elevator had changed. There were now 5 floors. I'd started the shift with 4. The intercom crackled overhead. A calm voice echoed through the empty building. "Attention, patrons. The library will be closing at sunrise. Please return all borrowed materials before departure." A pause. Then, "If you cannot return your book, the library will keep you instead." The lights dimmed. Somewhere deep in the stacks, I heard another page turn, then another, then dozens, hundreds. An entire library, all turning pages at exactly the same time. I stared at the empty space on the shelf. 11 books. The note lay where the 12th should have been. "Please return before sunrise." Return what? The missing book? Who had taken it? More importantly, how? The room had one entrance, no windows, no hidden passages. I checked the lock, still engaged, no scratches, no signs anyone else had opened it. The office phone began ringing again. This time I followed it. The sound echoed through the empty library. History, science, children's section. Every time I thought I was close, the ringing moved farther away. Finally, I reached the information desk. The phone was ringing on the counter. The display didn't show a number. It simply read, "Shelf 47. I hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A young woman's voice whispered back. "Did you count them?" "Yes." "How many?" 11. Silence. Then, "You still have time." The line went dead. I searched the library floor by floor. No broken windows, no open exits, no signs of anyone inside. Yet, books were no longer where they belonged. A history book rested in the cooking section. A dictionary sat among the biographies. Entire rows looked shifted, not randomly, deliberately, like someone had reorganized the library according to rules only they understood. As I rounded the corner into fiction, I heard someone turning pages, slowly, one page every few seconds. The sound came from Reading Room B. I pushed the door open. Empty chairs, empty tables, a single lamp burned in the corner. An old hardcover book lay open beneath it. Its pages were turning by themselves. No breeze, no fan. Each page flipped, paused, then flipped again. When I stepped closer, they stopped. The book wasn't from the library. Its cover was plain black, just like the 12 books. There was no title. I hadn't noticed it before because it was lying open. The first page contained only one sentence. "Thank you for finding me." I immediately closed it. Rule 2. Never open one. Too late. The lights flickered. Every bulb in the reading room went dark, except the lamp beside the book. Something moved between the shelves. Not quickly, just enough to disappear behind another aisle. I caught only a glimpse. A gray coat, an arm, someone walking away. "Library security," I called. No answer. I followed. Every aisle looked identical. Books stretched endlessly in both directions. I turned a corner, then another, then another. When I looked back, the reading room was gone. The library should have been familiar. I'd walked it 3 times already that night. Now the signs made no sense. History pointed toward children's books. Exit pointed into a wall of encyclopedias. The floor map beside the elevator had changed. There were now 5 floors. I'd started the shift with 4. The intercom crackled overhead. A calm voice echoed through the empty building. "Attention, patrons. The library will be closing at sunrise. Please return all borrowed materials before departure." A pause. Then, "If you cannot return your book, the library will keep you instead." The lights dimmed. Somewhere deep in the stacks, I heard another page turn, then another, then dozens, hundreds. An entire library, all turning pages at exactly the same time. I held the book as far away from myself as I could. The pages continued turning, slowly, steadily, one after another. I never saw them move. I only heard them, like someone reading just beyond the cover. The elderly librarian took another careful step backward. "Listen to me. You still have a chance." "How?" "You have to put it back before it finishes." "Finishes what?" She closed her eyes. "Reading you." The emergency lights flickered, for the first time all night. The library wasn't silent. I heard whispers, not words, just hundreds of voices speaking somewhere between the shelves. Every whisper seemed to come from a different direction. One behind me, one above me, one somewhere beneath the floor. The old librarian whispered, "They're all overdue." The book suddenly became heavier, much heavier. I nearly dropped it. The leather cover looked different now. Letters were appearing, slowly pressing themselves into the surface. Gold lettering, a title. I stared in disbelief. The title wasn't in English. It was my full name, every letter perfectly embossed into the leather. "No." The librarian looked at the cover. Too late. Her shoulders slumped. "It finished the title." The intercom crackled overhead. "Attention staff." A pleasant voice echoed through the building. "New volume cataloged." A pause. "Shelving location pending." Every whisper in the library stopped instantly. The silence felt somehow worse. The elevator bell chimed again. Its doors opened. 3 more librarians stepped out. A young man in a vest from the 1950s. A woman wearing clothing from the 1970s. An elderly gentleman whose employee badge looked almost a century old. Each carried stacks of black books. None of the books had titles, until they walked closer. Every cover bore a person's name. Different names. Thousands of tiny scratches covered the leather, as though countless hands had tried to erase them. The first librarian smiled politely. "We're here to help reshelve." "No thanks." "You misunderstand." He nodded toward the book in my hands. "You aren't returning it. You're joining it." All 4 librarians began walking toward me, slow, patient, as though they knew there was nowhere I could go. I ran. Bookshelves blurred past. The library no longer followed any recognizable layout. Hallways bent where they shouldn't. Staircases climbed upward, then somehow returned to the same floor. Every exit sign pointed in a different direction. One doorway led directly back into the aisle I'd just left. Another opened onto the children's reading room, where every chair was occupied. Children sat perfectly still. Each held an identical black book. None of them looked up. None of them turned a page. Yet I could hear pages turning. The office phone began ringing again. This time, it sat in the middle of the hallway, not plugged into anything. I answered. The familiar older voice spoke immediately. "Have you seen the title yet?" "Yes." "I'm sorry." "You knew?" "I was carrying my own book once." "What happened?" A long silence. Then, "I never reached the last page." The line crackled violently. Before it disconnected, he whispered one final sentence. "The author is awake." The lights throughout the library shut off. Complete darkness. Then, one by one, small green reading lamps illuminated across the building. Hundreds of them, each beside an open black book, each with an empty chair waiting. At the far end of the aisle, one final lamp switched on. There was only a single chair, and beside it, a wooden sign, "Author." The chair slowly turned toward me. No one was sitting in it, but I could hear breathing. I couldn't see anyone, only the empty chair. The breathing continued, slow, steady, like someone reading quietly in the dark. Then, a page turned, not somewhere in the library, right beside the chair. The green reading lamp brightened. An enormous book rested on the desk, far larger than the one I carried. Its leather cover was cracked with age. Iron clasps held it closed. Across the front, one word had been carved so deeply into the leather that it looked burned. Catalog. The whispers returned. Hundreds of voices, all saying the same sentence, almost too quietly to hear. "Don't let it write." The book in my hands became impossibly heavy. It slipped from my fingers. When it struck the floor, it opened by itself. The pages flipped rapidly, too fast to read. Hundreds of pages, thousands. Then, they stopped, exactly halfway through. Blank pages stretched as far as I could see, except for one, the page I was looking at. Words slowly appeared. Night security officer, first shift 12:03 a.m. Every event from my night was written there, exactly as it had happened, sentence by sentence, even my thoughts, even the questions I'd asked myself. The book hadn't been predicting the night, it had been recording it, while I lived it. I flipped forward. The next page wasn't blank, neither was the next, or the one after that. My future, written in perfect detail. I read one sentence before slamming the book shut. He opened the final door because he believed it led outside. I hadn't opened any final door, yet. The breathing stopped. The empty chair slowly slid backward, across the floor. No one touched it. The giant catalog creaked. Its iron clasps unlocked by themselves. One, then the other. The cover lifted a few inches. Darkness spilled from between the pages. Not shadow. Darkness. Like smoke pouring upward. The librarians all froze. None of them looked frightened. They bowed their heads. The oldest librarian whispered, "The author is reviewing." Every green lamp dimmed. The entire library seemed to hold its breath. The pages inside the enormous catalog began turning. Slowly. One page, another, as though someone invisible were searching for a name. Finally, they stopped. The librarians all looked directly at me. The oldest one smiled sadly. "It found you." The intercom crackled one last time. "Attention staff." The pleasant voice sounded almost cheerful. "Reshelving has been approved." A metal stamp echoed somewhere behind me. Thud another. Thud then. Dozens more. Every few seconds. Another invisible stamp struck paper somewhere in the darkness. Returned. Archived. Cataloged. Returned. Archived. Cataloged. The rhythm became faster, closer. The office phone rang. I answered without thinking. The older man's voice sounded weaker than ever. "You still have one chance." "What do I do?" "Find your library card." "I don't have one." "You do now." The line went silent. Then he whispered, "Every book has one." The call disconnected forever. A drawer beneath the circulation desk slid open by itself. Thousands of library cards filled the cabinet, yellowed with age, each typed with a person's name, occupation, date. None had return dates. I searched frantically, row after row, hundreds of names, thousands. Then I found mine. The ink was still wet. Borrower, Michael Harper. Item checked out, Michael Harper. Due date, sunrise stamped across the bottom in red ink were the words, "Non-returnable." At that exact moment, the final page inside the black book turned by itself. Somewhere deep within the library, someone quietly whispered, "Finished. Finished." The whisper echoed through every aisle, not loudly, quietly, like the closing sentence of a story. The black book in my hand slammed shut. This time, it stayed shut. Its cover now bore my name in bright gold letters. No matter how hard I pulled, it wouldn't open again. The library card dissolved into black dust. Every drawer in the circulation desk slammed shut at once. The librarian slowly looked up. For the first time, they smiled, not because they were happy, because something had ended. The oldest librarian spoke softly. "It has accepted you. I don't want to stay. No one ever does." The emergency lights blinked. When they came back on, the library had changed again. Every bookshelf was now filled with identical black books, thousands of them. No colorful covers, no titles, only names. Every spine carried someone's name. Doctors, teachers, soldiers, children, judges, janitors, people from every century. An endless collection, every life, bound into leather. The giant catalog closed by itself, its iron clasps locked. The breathing behind the author's desk stopped. The chair slowly rotated back toward the desk. Still empty. The oldest librarian bowed his head. "The author is gone." "Gone where?" "He never leaves." "I don't understand." "You will." He gently rested one hand on the nearest shelf. He simply starts reading someone else. The lights overhead flickered into their normal brightness. For a moment, the library looked ordinary again. Wooden shelves, carpet, study tables, computers, almost comforting. Then I noticed the patrons. Every table was occupied. I hadn't seen anyone enter. Men, women, teenagers, an elderly couple, each silently reading a different black book. None of them turned a page, yet I could still hear pages moving. Somewhere, not in their hands, inside the shelves. The intercom chimed. "Attention, patrons. The library will open in 15 minutes. If you have completed your reading, please return to your assigned place." One by one, every patron stood. Each carried their black book to a nearby shelf. Without looking, they slid it perfectly into an empty space. Then, they walked into the shelves, not behind them, into them, as though the rows of books were made of water. Within seconds, the reading room was empty. Only the books remained. The oldest librarian handed me a small brass object, a nameplate. It read, "Night Librarian" below it. My name. "I don't work here." He looked genuinely confused. "You've always worked here." "No. You've simply forgotten." My memories blurred. For just a second, I remembered walking these aisles years ago, helping someone find a history book, locking the front doors, counting 12 books. The memory vanished as quickly as it came. The office phone rang one final time. I answered. Silence. Then, my own voice, older, tired. If you're hearing this, you're still on your first night. My heart pounded. I don't remember making this. You haven't. Yet. A pause. Don't waste time trying to escape. You can't. The only thing you can still change is who finds the missing book next. The line went dead. The front doors unlocked automatically. Morning sunlight poured through the entrance. The first patrons of the day began walking inside, laughing, talking, checking their phones. None of them noticed the librarians watching from between the shelves. None of them noticed the 12 black books hidden behind the history section. And none of them noticed that there were now 13. 13. I counted again. The room was silent. The shelf was unmistakable. 1, 2, 3, 13. The extra book rested at the very end. Its leather looked newer than the others. The gold lettering gleamed in the morning light. My name. I reached toward it. The oldest librarian quietly cleared his throat. Leave it. I thought there were only 12. There are. I looked back. There were. Only 12. The 13th book had vanished. Morning patrons wandered through the library. Students, parents with children, retirees reading newspapers. Everything looked perfectly ordinary. The overnight nightmare seemed impossible in daylight. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Until a little boy tugged on his mother's sleeve. Mom? He pointed toward the hidden hallway behind the history section. Who's that man? His mother looked. I don't see anyone. The boy frowned. The one waving. My heart stopped. The hallway was empty, but I knew exactly who he meant. The oldest librarian gently closed the history aisle. Children notice us. Us? He smiled sadly. They haven't forgotten how to read. Before I could ask what he meant, he disappeared between two bookshelves, not behind them, between them, like slipping through a curtain. The morning manager arrived carrying coffee. She smiled. First night? I nodded. How'd it go? I searched her face. No fear, no exhaustion, just an ordinary manager beginning another workday. I think someone was inside after closing. She laughed politely. You'll get used to the noises. Then she handed me an envelope. Almost forgot. What's this? Your employee packet. I opened it. Inside was my official staff badge, a parking pass, health insurance paperwork, and a library card, already printed, already laminated. Issue date, today's date. Expiration. Date, never. I think there's been a mistake. There isn't. You printed this before I accepted the job. She looked confused. You accepted years ago. Then she walked away, as if she'd said nothing unusual. I hurried back to shelf 47. The brass key was still in my pocket. The room waited exactly as I'd left it. 12 black books. Nothing more. Nothing less. I was about to lock the door when I noticed something I'd missed before. Tiny brass plaques beneath each book. Not titles. Years. Each year matched the date a previous night librarian had started. The final plaque was blank. As I watched, numbers slowly engraved themselves into the brass. 2026. The empty space had never been waiting for a book. It had been waiting for a year. The office phone rang. One last time. I already knew who it was. I answered, only silence. Then, my own voice, calm, older, comfortably tired. Good evening. You've reached the overnight desk. If this is your first shift, welcome. You'll only have one responsibility. I felt my knees weaken. It was the exact sentence the head librarian had spoken to me yesterday, word for word. Then my older voice chuckled softly. "Don't worry. You'll memorize it eventually." The call ended. State records say the city library has employed a night librarian continuously since 1904. Every employee retired. Every employee collected a pension. Every employee supposedly moved away. No one can find any of them. Sometimes, just before closing, I'll notice someone standing near the history section. They always look lost, always reading the job posting on their phone, always smiling at the pay. I want to warn them, I really do. But by then, I've already started my shift, and the first responsibility of the night librarian is making sure shelf 47 has exactly 12 books every morning, without fail, because if there are only 11, the library isn't missing a book. It's looking for its next chapter.